They said love has no age. But the world lied. Because when she, a woman who had lost everything, found warmth in someone half her age, the world turned against her. A love that began with kindness and ended with chaos. This is not just a story. It's a confession. The story of Amelia Grant, a woman who dared to love again and paid the price no one should ever pay. The day it all began, Amelia Grant was 42 years old, a literature teacher, quiet, elegant, and lonely in ways no one saw. Her house was clean, organized, and painfully silent. Every morning began the same. Wake up, make coffee, stare at the empty chair across the table, and ask herself, when did my life stop feeling like mine? Her husband, Daniel, had left 3 years ago for something better. Her son, Ryan, had moved to another state for college. Now her world was made up of books, papers, and the echo of what used to be laughter. Amelia didn't cry anymore. She'd already cried enough to fill rivers. Now she just existed. It was the first day of spring semester at Crestwood High. The corridors smelled of ink, perfume, and young dreams. As Amelia walked in, carrying her books, glasses slightly tilted, she noticed a boy sitting alone near the back of her class. He wasn't a boy, not really. Maybe 23 or 24, tall, lean, and quiet. He had the kind of eyes that spoke before words did, deep, observant, and tired of pretending. His name was Ethan Cole. He had just transferred mid-semester after his father's death, the kind of tragedy that leaves a permanent shadow. He didn't talk much, didn't laugh, didn't fit in, but when Amelia asked a question about poetry, he answered. Not like a student, but like someone who understood pain. Sometimes, Ethan said softly, we write about love because it's the only thing we can't say out loud. The room went silent. Even Amelia didn't know what to say, because in that one sentence, she felt her walls crack. Days passed. Ethan stayed after class often, at first to ask about books, then about life. She told him about her love for classic poetry. He told her about his dream of becoming a writer. They shared coffee, laughter, silence. And slowly, something unspoken began to form between them. It wasn't physical, not yet. It was understanding, the kind you don't find in crowded rooms or dating apps, the kind that creeps up quietly when two lonely souls find a reflection of themselves. You ever feel like everyone's moving forward but you're stuck in place? Ethan asked one evening. Every day, Amelia replied, her voice trembling slightly. Every single day. That evening, the weather changed, the kind of storm that turns the world dark by 6 p.m. Thunder rolled, wind howled, and electricity blinked out. Amelia was grading essays when she heard a knock on the door. It was Ethan, soaked, shivering, holding his bag. My power's out, he said sheepishly. Can I just wait here till it stops? She hesitated. For a moment, morality and instinct fought. Then she nodded. He sat by the fireplace. She handed him a towel, then coffee. They talked again, about nothing and everything. Ethan told her about his father, the fights, the silence, the loss. Amelia listened like she was hearing her own story told back to her. The air between them grew heavier. Each pause lasted a little too long. Each glance held a little too much meaning. When he reached for her hand, she didn't pull away. Ethan whispering, You're the only one who listens. Amelia softly, You're the only one who talks. And in that fragile moment, the distance between them disappeared. But when the lightning flashed outside, reality struck like thunder. Amelia pulled her hand back, heart pounding. You should go, Ethan, she said, voice shaking. Before we do something we'll regret. He stood there for a long moment, looking at her with something more than admiration. Then silently he left. The next morning, Amelia woke up with guilt twisting in her chest. She told herself it was nothing. Just comfort, just loneliness. But deep down, she knew something had changed. She walked into class expecting awkwardness, but Ethan acted normal. Too normal. He smiled, greeted her politely, but avoided eye contact. And that hurt more than anything. Narrator, soft tone. Sometimes, silence says what words never can. And in that silence, a love story began to grow in the shadows. A few days later, Amelia found an envelope on her desk. No name. No handwriting she recognized. Inside was a note. Just one line. "You make the world feel safe again." She stared at it for minutes. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears. She knew who it was from. And for the first time in years, she smiled. Narrator, cinematic tone. That single note changed everything. It wasn't love yet, but it was a beginning. A spark in the dark that neither of them could control, and once that spark turned into fire, it would burn everything in its path. The first touch of danger. The night had fallen heavy and quiet. The city outside still buzzed with faint sounds. Cars passing, a siren echoing far away, and the whisper of rain beginning to fall. Inside that little cafe near Maple Street, the air was thick with something neither of them could name. Curiosity, guilt, and a spark that refused to die. Sarah sat across from Ethan, her hands trembling slightly as she wrapped them around the cup of coffee. She was 38, confident on the outside, but inside, she was at war. Ethan was 22, young, ambitious, and completely unaware of how much danger their connection carried. Ethan leaned forward, his voice soft but steady. "Why do you always look like you're about to run away?" Sarah looked up, startled by his directness. "Maybe because I should," he smiled faintly. "Then why don't you?" That one question hit her harder than she expected. She looked out through the cafe window, the reflection of her own face blurred with city lights. Somewhere inside that reflection, she saw the woman she used to be, free, full of dreams, untouched by regret. "Because running doesn't fix anything," she whispered. But Ethan wasn't backing off. "Sometimes it does. Sometimes you have to run towards something, not away." Sarah stared at him, really stared. His words, his eyes, his innocence. It was dangerous. He didn't realize that he was stepping into a storm that could destroy them both. After that night, they started meeting often, by accident. At least, that's what they told themselves. Library, art class, the old bridge that overlooked the town lights. Each meeting stretched the invisible line between right and wrong a little thinner. One afternoon, Ethan found her sitting on the bench near the bridge, sketching the view. "Is that what peace looks like?" he asked, watching her pencil move. She smiled faintly. "No, peace doesn't exist. Only moments like this that make us forget the chaos for a while." He sat beside her, close enough to feel the warmth of her shoulder. For a few seconds, they didn't speak. The world went silent, just the wind, the sound of the river below, and the unspoken truth between them. When she finally looked at him, she saw something in his eyes, a reflection of her loneliness, and in that moment, she stopped fighting. Every forbidden connection eventually leaks into the world, through glances, whispers, and rumors. It started with Mrs. Hensley, Sarah's colleague, who saw Ethan waiting for her outside the school one afternoon. "He's one of your students, isn't he?" she asked casually later. Sarah froze. "He was." "Not anymore." Mrs. Hensley smiled, but her eyes were sharp. "Be careful, dear. People talk." That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. For the first time, fear started replacing curiosity. But the next morning, when she saw Ethan again, all that fear vanished. His smile made the world disappear, and that was the most dangerous part. One evening, as the rain returned, Ethan showed up at her door. He was drenched, his jacket soaked. "I just wanted to talk," he said breathlessly. "Ethan, you can't be here." "I don't care." Her voice trembled. "People will—" "I said I don't care." The silence that followed was deafening. She could hear her heartbeat, loud and uneven. He looked at her like she was the only person who ever understood him. And maybe for the first time, she believed that too. They stood there, two souls caught in something far beyond their control. The storm outside raged, and the one inside them burned hotter. By the time Ethan left, nothing between them was innocent anymore. The next few days were strange. The air around them changed, thick with suspicion. Students whispered. Teachers exchanged knowing looks. Sarah pretended not to notice, but inside, she was breaking apart. Every message Ethan sent, every late-night call, every small meeting in the park felt heavier. What once felt like freedom now felt like a trap, tightening slowly. Ethan didn't see it. He was in love, blind, reckless, and brave. Sarah, however, knew better. Every look, every rumor, every smile from someone who knew made her heart sink deeper into guilt. It was a Friday evening when she found the anonymous note on her desk. "We know about you and him." Her blood froze. No name. No signature. Just 6 words that shattered everything she'd built. She tore it apart, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. That night, she called Ethan. "Don't contact me anymore," she said. Her voice cracked. "This has to stop. Sarah, please, it's over," she hung up. But both of them knew it wasn't. For the first time in months, they stopped seeing each other. Sarah tried to focus on her work, on her life, but everything reminded her of him. His laugh, his questions, the way he made her feel alive again. Ethan, on the other hand, couldn't take it. He started showing up where she might be, just to see her face from a distance. He told himself he wasn't doing anything wrong, but obsession has a way of disguising itself as love, and deep down, Sarah felt it too. The longer she stayed away, the stronger the pull became. One evening, she saw him again, sitting alone in the same cafe where it all began. She tried to walk past, but his voice stopped her. "Are you really going to pretend I don't exist?" She turned. "You shouldn't be here." "Neither should you," he said softly. "But here we are." She sat down. Just for a minute, she told herself. But that minute stretched into hours, and by the time they walked out together, she knew. It was already too late to go back. As they stood outside, rain falling once again, Ethan reached for her hand. "I don't care who finds out anymore," he said. "Let them talk." Sarah looked at him, fear and love clashing inside her. "You don't understand. This isn't just gossip anymore. Someone knows." Ethan frowned. "Who?" Before she could answer, her phone buzzed. A message, no name. Just one sentence. "Next time, the world will know everything." She looked up at Ethan, her eyes wide. The storm wasn't just outside anymore, it was coming for them both. When the secret breaks, the night was colder than usual. The kind of cold that seeps into your bones, whispering reminders of everything you've lost, or are about to lose. Sarah sat in her living room, the message still open on her phone. "Next time, the world will know everything." Her heart raced. Her mind ran through possibilities. Who could have sent it? Was it someone from school? A student? A parent? A friend turned enemy? She couldn't breathe. The walls of her home, once her sanctuary, now felt like a prison closing in. And then the knock came. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. She froze. Sarah opened the door just a crack, enough to see a shadowy figure under the porch light. It was Mrs. Hensley. "Evening, Sarah," she said, her smile too polite to be sincere. "Mind if I come in?" Sarah hesitated, but she stepped aside. "Sure, what brings you here?" Mrs. Hensley walked in, her eyes scanning every corner of the room. The photos, the art, the faint scent of Ethan's cologne still lingering in the air. "You've been distant lately," she said. "People at the school are talking about you and one of your students, a young man." Sarah's blood ran cold. "I don't know what you mean," Mrs. Hensley chuckled softly. "Oh, Sarah, denial doesn't suit you. The boy has been seen outside your house. People aren't stupid." "Get out," Sarah whispered. Mrs. Hensley smirked. "You should be careful. Scandals have a way of destroying lives." As the door closed behind her, Sarah knew it wasn't a rumor anymore. It was a fire, and it was spreading fast. Meanwhile, Ethan paced his small apartment, his phone in his hand. Sarah hadn't replied to his texts. Not a word. He wanted to protect her, to take the blame if needed. But he didn't realize his own recklessness was making things worse. When he finally called, Sarah answered after a long pause. "Ethan, listen to me," she said, her voice trembling. "Don't come near me, not for a while. Please, Sarah, they're talking about us at the campus. I can handle it. No! You can't. Then what am I supposed to do? Disappear, she whispered. Before this destroys us both. But Ethan didn't hang up. I love you. There was silence. Then a whisper. Sometimes love isn't enough. Click. The call ended. The next morning, the unthinkable happened. A photo, blurry but clear enough, started circulating through school emails and social media. Sarah and Ethan, sitting too close in a cafe. His hand over hers. The caption was brutal. The truth always comes out. Within hours, her inbox flooded. Calls, messages, reporters waiting outside the school gate. Her world shattered in a single click. The principal called her in. Sarah, we need to talk, he said gravely. Is it true? She wanted to deny it. To fight, to scream. But the picture said everything. Tears welled in her eyes. I never meant for this to happen, he sighed. You're suspended. Effective immediately. Her career, the one thing she'd built with every ounce of discipline and dedication, was gone. That evening, Sarah sat alone, her phone buzzing nonstop. Hate messages, anonymous threats, judgment from strangers who didn't even know her name a week ago. Ethan came running to her door, ignoring her warnings. Sarah, I saw the post. I'll tell everyone it's fake. She shook her head, crying. They won't believe you. You're just a kid. I'm the one they'll destroy. He took her hand. Then let them. I can't stand seeing you like this. But Sarah pulled away. You don't understand what you've done. I did it because I love you. Love isn't supposed to ruin lives, Ethan, she shouted, her voice breaking. He stood still, tears in his eyes. Then what do you want me to do? She looked at him, heartbroken, helpless. Walk away. Before they ruin yours, too. Days turned into weeks. Sarah stopped leaving her house. Groceries were left at her door. Children crossed the street when she walked by. Whispers followed her everywhere. The teacher who couldn't control herself. The boy who got seduced. It didn't matter what the truth was. Society had already written her story. One afternoon, someone spray-painted homewrecker on her garage door. Sarah sank to the floor, sobbing. She had lost everything, her job, her reputation, her peace, but even through the tears she felt it, that same painful longing for the boy who made her feel alive. Ethan wasn't silent anymore. He posted online, defending her. Sarah didn't take advantage of me. She cared about me when nobody else did. She's the best person I know. The post went viral, dividing people. Some called it romantic. Others called it wrong, but it caught the attention of the media. Soon, news vans surrounded Sarah's house. Reporters knocking, cameras flashing. Miss Whitmore, do you have anything to say about your affair? She closed the curtains, trembling. Ethan came the next night, his eyes wild with anger and exhaustion. I won't let them do this to you, he said, but Sarah had already made up her mind. You need to stop fighting for me, she whispered. It'll only destroy you, he took her hands. Then let's be destroyed together. She stared at him, tears streaming down her cheeks. Don't say that. You have a future. Don't throw it away from me. The story hit national headlines. Teacher-student affair scandal rocks suburban town. News anchors debated morality. Talk shows invited experts. Sarah's photo was everywhere. Frozen mid-smile, turned into a villain overnight. Ethan's parents confronted him. What were you thinking, Ethan? She's twice your age. She understands me, he shouted. You never did. His father slammed the table. She manipulated you. Ethan stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The sound echoed like a warning bell, one that no one could unhear. Just when Sarah thought it couldn't get worse, she received a legal notice. The school board had filed a case. Violation of ethical conduct. The state was considering revoking her license permanently. She sat in the lawyer's office, numb. They'll use everything against you, her attorney said. Even the messages? Sarah's eyes widened. They don't have those. The lawyer hesitated. Are you sure? She felt her stomach drop. Her phone had been stolen days ago. The next morning, screenshots appeared online. Private texts, confessions, love, fear, every word twisted to make her look guilty, and at the center, a message that wasn't even real. You belong to me. Ethan! No one can know. Sarah stared at it in disbelief. I never said that. But the damage was done. The internet doesn't need truth, just a story that burns. By the end of the week, Sarah couldn't take it anymore. She locked herself in her room, surrounded by the echoes of what her life used to be. Framed photos, half-finished art, Ethan's letter hidden in a drawer. She picked it up. His handwriting shaky but full of hope. If love is wrong, then maybe I don't want to be right. Tears streamed down her face. She whispered his name, once, twice, as if saying it could bring back the world they lost. Scene 11. The cliffhanger ending late that night. Her phone buzzed again. A new message, this time from a number she didn't recognize. You think the world knows everything? They don't, but I do. Attached. A photo of Ethan, unconscious, in a hospital bed. Sarah's scream filled the room. The story that began with forbidden love was about to spiral into revenge, exposure, and heartbreak. The reckoning, background sound, thunder rolling, slow piano music, heartbeat thumping. It had been 3 days since the message. 3 days since Sarah saw the picture of Ethan, pale, lifeless, tubes attached, machines beeping. She hadn't slept. She hadn't eaten. She just existed. Her phone lay on the table, the message still glowing on the screen. You think the world knows everything? They don't, but I do. The number was still unknown. Sarah's trembling fingers dialed every hospital in the city. No one had an Ethan Cole listed. No records, no patient, no trace. That's when fear turned into suspicion. Someone wasn't exposing her. Someone was hunting her. At dawn, Sarah stepped out of her house for the first time in weeks. Her hair was messy, her eyes sunken, but her resolve unshakable. She drove through the rain, her car headlights slicing through the fog, stopping at the last place she saw Ethan, the Hillview Cafe. The owner, Mr. Rourke, was cleaning the counter. "Sarah?" he said in shock. "You shouldn't be here. Reporters came last week looking for you." "I'm not here for them," she said. "Do you remember Ethan? The boy who came here with me?" Mr. Rourke hesitated. "Yeah, someone's been asking about him too. A man said he was from the press, but he wasn't." Sarah's heart pounded. "Who was he?" Mr. Rourke leaned closer. Tall, dark coat, British accent. "Gave me a card, no name, just initials." He pulled out a folded piece of paper. A.W. Sarah returned home and began searching. A W, it had to mean something. She went through old papers, old emails, anything connected to Ethan. Then she found it. An old scholarship application Ethan once showed her. His recommender? Andrew Whitmore. Her ex-husband. Her breath caught in her throat. No, it couldn't be. Andrew had left her years ago. Moved to London. But what if he never really let go? Sarah tracked down an old contact, a nurse who once worked with her at the community clinic. After a few calls, the nurse whispered, "There's a boy admitted under an alias. The file says EC, but no family listed. Come tonight. I'll let you see him." At 11:47 p.m., Sarah walked down the dim hospital corridor. Every step echoed like guilt. When she reached room 306, she froze. There he was, Ethan, pale, weak, asleep. Bandages wrapped around his head. Machines softly beeping beside him, her trembling fingers brushed his hand. "Ethan," she whispered. He didn't move. A tear rolled down her cheek and fell on his palm. And for a second his fingers twitched. She gasped. "Ethan, can you hear me?" But before she could call for help, a deep voice spoke behind her. "I told you to stay away." Sarah turned around. Standing in the doorway, cold, composed, and dangerous, was Andrew Whitmore, her ex-husband. "Andrew," she whispered, "what did you do to him?" He smiled faintly. "I saved him." "From you," she blinked, confused. "What are you talking about?" "You destroyed my career, my reputation, and now you're destroying a child's future." "He's not a child." "He's..." Andrew cut her off. "He's 19, Sarah. You're 42. You think the world will ever understand you? Her voice broke. This isn't about the world. Oh, but it is, he said coldly. Because I'm going to make sure they see what you really are. Sarah's heart dropped. You're the one who leaked the photos. Andrew's silence was the answer. Sarah took a shaky step toward him. Andrew, please, stop this. You've already ruined me, he smirked. Ruined you? No, I'm just getting started. The board wants your testimony next week. If you don't resign quietly, I'll hand over the rest. Your letters, your texts, your photos, everything. Her hands clenched into fists. How did you even get them? Ethan trusted me once, Andrew said. He asked for help when things got tough. Poor boy didn't realize I had my own reasons. Sarah's voice rose in anger. You manipulated him. I protected him, Andrew snapped. From you. He stepped closer, his eyes cold. If you love him, Sarah, let him go, or I'll destroy him too. He left, leaving her trembling beside Ethan's bed, surrounded by machines, memories, and a growing storm of vengeance. Hours later, Ethan stirred. His eyes fluttered open, weakly scanning the room. When he saw Sarah, he whispered, You came back. She smiled through tears. Of course I did. He tried to sit up, wincing in pain. What happened? You were in an accident, she said softly. Someone hit you near the school. He frowned. A car? She nodded. But deep down, she knew. It wasn't an accident. He took her hand. I thought I lost you. She leaned close, tears falling. You'll never lose me. But in her heart, she knew. The only way to save him was to let him go. Days passed. Ethan recovered slowly, unaware of the shadows around him. Sarah, meanwhile, met secretly with her lawyer. I want to confess, she said. The lawyer froze. Sarah, if you do that, you'll lose your license forever. I've already lost everything that mattered, she said quietly. But if I confess, maybe they'll leave him alone, the lawyer sighed. You're doing this for him? She smiled sadly. I'm doing this for love. A week later, the town gathered at the courthouse, reporters, cameras, whispering crowds. Sarah walked up the stairs slowly, head high, heart heavy. When she took the stand, flashes blinded her. Ms. Whitmore, is it true you had a relationship with your student? She looked straight ahead and said, Yes. Gasps filled the room, but her voice didn't shake. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect understanding. But I will say this. Love doesn't always follow the rules you set for it. Sometimes it finds you when you least deserve it. Andrew smirked from the back row, convinced he'd won. But then, Sarah did something no one expected. She reached into her purse and pulled out a USB drive. I have proof, she said, of who leaked my private data and why. The courtroom fell silent. Sarah plugged the USB into the projector. The screen lit up. Security footage from the cafe. It showed Andrew meeting with the photographer, paying him cash. Emails followed, messages from Andrew's account to news outlets. The crowd gasped. Sarah's voice trembled but remained firm. This wasn't about morality. This was about revenge. Andrew lunged forward, shouting, You can't prove that! But it was too late. The evidence was already in front of everyone. Security dragged Andrew away as he yelled threats. Reporters swarmed Sarah. Ethan, watching from the back, looked both proud and heartbroken. Later that night, Sarah sat by his hospital bed one last time. You're free now, she whispered. No more lies. No more secrets. He shook his head weakly. What about you? She smiled sadly. I'll find peace someday. Maybe not today, but someday. He squeezed her hand. I'll wait. She kissed his forehead. Don't. As Sarah walked out of the hospital, rain pouring once again, the same unknown number messaged her one last time. Nice performance, Sarah, but you still don't know who really wanted him gone. Her steps froze. Her breath hitched. She looked up, and through the rain across the street stood a woman, holding an umbrella. Watching her, Sarah recognized the face, Mrs. Hensley. And in that moment, she realized the real enemy was still out there. The consequences of love. When love crosses forbidden lines, the world doesn't whisper, It screams. The world outside kept spinning, but for Helen and Ryan, time seemed to have frozen between two hearts caught in an impossible storm. Their love had bloomed in secret corners, in hidden cafes, dimly lit rooms, and late-night phone calls where silence spoke more than words. But when truth finally crawled out of the shadows, it didn't just knock, it exploded. The exposure, it started small. A photo, blurry, grainy, but unmistakable. Helen's face, her soft hair, and Ryan's hand resting gently on hers. It appeared online, first in a small local gossip page, then spread like wildfire. By morning, everyone had seen it, her neighbors whispered. His classmates smirked. Ryan's mother cried. Helen's ex-husband sent a message that said only one word: disgusting. Helen tried to delete her social accounts, but screenshots were everywhere. News outlets started calling it the forbidden affair of Mapletown. Her job called her in for a formal conversation. Ryan was suspended from school. The world didn't want to understand why they fell in love, and it only wanted to judge. Helen's world began to collapse piece by piece. Her friends, the same ones who once admired her confidence, now avoided her. At the grocery store, people whispered loud enough for her to hear. When she smiled at the cashier, he looked away. Ryan's friends stopped talking to him too. To them, he wasn't brave. He was weird, a joke. The kid who dated his mom's age woman. He laughed it off at first, but inside the words cut deep. At night, Helen cried quietly, her face buried in the pillow, whispering his name like a prayer. Ryan sat by his window, watching the lights flicker across town, wondering if love was ever meant to survive the world's cruelty. But despite everything, neither of them could stop loving each other. Then came the call. Helen's employer told her she had to resign to preserve the company's reputation. Ryan's parents gave him a choice: end this relationship or leave this house. He looked at them, his mother's trembling lips, his father's cold stare, and said softly, I can't stop loving her. The next day, he packed his bag. He had nowhere to go but her. When Helen opened the door and saw him standing there, drenched from the rain, her heart broke, not from shame, but from love that had endured too much pain. She pulled him inside, held him close, and said, if the world wants a villain, let it be me. The scandal grew. Documentaries, talk shows, podcasts, everyone wanted to discuss them. Some called Helen a manipulator. Others said Ryan was naive. But no one understood that it wasn't about lust or rebellion. It was about finding peace in someone who saw your soul. They moved to a small cabin outside the city. No internet, no neighbors, no noise, just them. For the first time in months, they breathed. Ryan started painting. Helen grew a garden. They spent mornings wrapped in blankets, laughing about everything they'd lost and everything they'd found. But even in the silence, the world's shadow lingered. Helen often stared at the horizon, wondering if love could truly exist in hiding. One night, a knock echoed through the wooden cabin. A journalist had tracked them down. He offered them money, a fortune, to tell their story on camera. Helen refused instantly, but Ryan hesitated. He wanted people to know the truth. He wanted to show that their love was real, not a scandal, not a joke. Helen saw the spark in his eyes and felt something shatter. She knew if he went public, the quiet peace they'd built would be gone forever, and so, with a heavy heart, she whispered, if you do this, I can't stay. Ryan looked at her, tears in his eyes, torn between truth and love. In that moment, he realized something painful. Sometimes love doesn't die because people stop caring. It dies because the world won't let it live. That night, Ryan left the house without a word. He gave the interview. He told their story, raw, emotional, and real. The world listened. Some people mocked him, some defended them. But for the first time, Helen's eyes appeared not as a villain's, but as a woman who dared to love beyond rules. When Ryan returned, she wasn't there. Only a note on the table. Maybe in another life, the world will be kinder to people like us. Years passed. Ryan became an artist. His paintings told stories of forbidden love, of pain, of courage. In every exhibition, one painting always stood at the center. A portrait of an older woman crying in the rain, holding a red rose. He titled it, "The Love the World Couldn't Understand." The letter she left behind. Some goodbyes aren't the end. They're echoes of love too powerful to fade. The rain had stopped hours ago. The cabin was silent, the kind of silence that makes your heartbeat sound too loud. Ryan sat by the window, the last candle flickering beside him. The note she left still lay on the table, its edges soft from the tears that had fallen on it. Maybe in another life, the world will be kinder to people like us. He read that line again and again, as if repeating it might bring her back. But she was gone. For weeks, Ryan searched everywhere. He drove through old highways, walked through parks they once visited, and called every friend she'd ever mentioned. No one knew where she went. Some said she'd left the country. Others whispered she had moved on. But Ryan didn't believe that. He could still feel her. In the smell of coffee in the mornings, in the sound of the rain, in the colors of his paintings. Love doesn't vanish. It hides in the corners of life, waiting to be found again. And then, one morning, he received a package. No return address, no sender name, just a plain brown envelope with one word written on it, Ryan. Inside the envelope was a handwritten letter. The ink had smudged in some places, but her handwriting was unmistakable, soft, looping, full of grace. He unfolded it with trembling hands. "My dearest Ryan, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't be brave enough to say goodbye face to face. You deserve someone who can walk in the daylight with you, not someone who hides in shadows. Loving you was the most honest thing I've ever done. But honesty isn't always enough to survive the noise of the world. I left not because I stopped loving you, but because every time I saw you cry for what we lost, I died a little more inside. If I stayed, you'd never heal. If I left, maybe one day you'd learn to smile again. Please don't look for me. Just live, paint, feel. And when the world finally understands love the way we did, maybe we'll find each other again, somewhere beyond time and judgment. Yours always, Helen." Ryan pressed the letter against his chest, his tears falling silently. Every word felt like a heartbeat from a ghost. One last embrace made of ink and paper. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into years. Ryan poured every ounce of grief, love, and longing into his art. He painted Helen again and again, in gardens, in rain, in candlelight. Each painting told a story of love that refused to fade. One day, an art curator visited his studio. She stopped in front of one canvas, a woman standing by a window, her eyes full of sorrow and hope. The painting was titled, "The Letter She Left Behind." The curator whispered, "It's haunting." "Was she real?" Ryan smiled faintly. She was more than real. She was everything. Years later, Ryan held his biggest exhibition in New York City. Critics called him the artist of forbidden love. People lined up for hours to see his work, but at the very center of the gallery hung one final piece. A massive painting of an older woman sitting by a red window, a letter in her hand, tears on her face, a soft smile beneath them. The room fell silent whenever someone stood before it. It carried an emotion no one could describe, a mix of heartbreak, peace, and eternal connection. Underneath the painting, a small note was displayed. "For Helen, the woman who taught me that love doesn't need permission." As the exhibition was closing that night, an old woman approached Ryan quietly. Her silver hair glowed under the gallery lights. Her eyes, though older, carried something achingly familiar. Ryan froze. "It couldn't be." "Hello, Ryan," she whispered. Her voice trembled, soft and warm, just as he remembered. He stepped closer, tears already forming. "Helen?" She nodded. Time had painted wrinkles on her face, but her smile was the same. That gentle curve that once made him believe love could defy the world. "I saw your paintings," she said, her voice breaking. You kept your promise. Ryan couldn't speak. He simply took her hands, fragile but still alive, and held them tightly. I never stopped loving you, he whispered, and I never stopped watching you, she said. I just needed time to let the world forget. They walked out together into the night, the city lights glowing around them like stars reborn. They sat on a bench, just talking, like nothing had ever gone wrong. About life, about art, about what could have been. And then, as the dawn began to break, Helen leaned her head on his shoulder and smiled. You kept the fire alive, Ryan. That's all I ever wanted. She closed her eyes and didn't open them again. Ryan held her, his tears falling silently as the first sunlight touched her face. In that golden light, she looked peaceful, as if she'd just gone to sleep. A month later, Ryan hosted one final exhibition, titled The Woman Who Waited. It wasn't just art anymore. It was a message. That love doesn't have to be understood by others to be real. That sometimes the bravest act of love is letting go. The world came to see, cried, and left in silence. Ryan never painted again after that, but every year, on the day he first met her, he visited that old bench and left a single red rose. Final line, the world judged their love, but in the end, it was their love that judged the world.